So my talk today is really about intercepting edge AI trends and how Dell does that, through three key strategies: the AI PC, the AI factories, and NativeEdge. Okay, so I'll spend some time. A lot of people, talk to me, hey, what's Dell doing at the edge? This is TinyML, more, IoT focused and things like that. Just to let people know that, with Dell, we're really focused on how do we bring value from the enterprise to the edge. And it's really about how do we proliferate more of our infrastructure products and services, which we have a wide portfolio. How do we bring that to adjacent markets like the edge market? So a few years ago, we had started, based on some research from our global CTO, we basically enacted, a strategy around edge, and that has now evolved into these three pieces. Okay, so I'm gonna talk to you a lot about that today. The other thing I wanted to mention before we get started is that I'm also joined here today by other members of my team here at Dell. And so at the conclusion of this keynote, instead of taking questions, I'm gonna make it a little bit more intimate, and I'm gonna ask you to join us at the tables outside to ask any questions that you may have, or challenge you to explore how can you bring the value of your solutions that I see here, how can we bring those to market along with something like NativeEdge? So when you get a chance after this, we're gonna be located at the tables outside. I would like for you to come and talk to me and the team, and we'll go through that, okay? So thank you. I'm gonna skip the introduction. Did a pretty good introduction. So let me start with this. I think it's validation here. It's also validation in the industry that it's no secret there's a massive amount of data is being generated at the edge. Much of the enterprise generated data today is being generated outside of the core data center, at the edge. And this influx of data that's coming in at the edge is driving a need not only for edge technology trends, but the need for edge AI to produce immediate and essential value near the point of creation. But it's also needed for other reasons as well. And those reasons could be for security, right? For sovereignty of the data, to bring that data local. With edge data processing and edge AI now, it becomes a distributed computing problem. So the cost of centralization, say in a cloud and a hyperscaler, becomes challenged. In order to manage, secure this data, and to generate those insights and actions, or to provide autonomy, you're going to need to distribute this processing at the edge. So Dell's strategy is really focused around how do we bring AI to the data, okay? And so it's in the form of how do we leverage Dell's infrastructure, products and services, within co-location, within data centers, and also beyond the data center to what we call the far edge. Not necessarily the IoT edge, but we can definitely orchestrate the IoT edge. And you'll see that when I get into NativeEdge. So understanding this data explosion and this growth that's happening at the edge, there's kind of four technology trends that we see that I think are relevant, and they've been validated by a lot of your presentations here today, so I was very happy to see that. Obviously, the big talk this year is around AI agents and agentic AI. This transcends every vertical market that we see. So when we talk to customers about, how can we bring more value to our customers, with AI outcomes, they immediately jump to, well, hey, how do I take advantage of, how do I automate AI at the edge, right? And so whether it's, things like patient monitoring in healthcare, or it's supply chain management and responding to challenges, routing in the supply chain and things like that. It's very important. So it definitely transcends. So one of the big trends that we see is definitely around agentic AI. Another trend that we see is, because to get AI closer to where the data is, many of the topics that we had here today were around small language models, or how do I reduce the size of some of these larger open source models to a much smaller model, but maintaining the same level of accuracy. So whether it's distillation or pruning or, what have you, we're definitely seeing that. And that only proves credence that people and customers are looking for outcomes closer to where the data is generated for all the reasons that I talked about. So optimizations around how we scale down these models and operate them on the third topic here, edge AI optimized infrastructure, silicon infrastructure, right? A big topic of TinyML. We had a lot of talks around MCUs and other edge optimized infrastructure. But for the enterprise, it's also around looking at ARM SoCs, integrating, optimized infrastructure for AI processing like NPUs, right, and things like that. So edge optimized infrastructure, and be able to operate that infrastructure outside of the data center in locations at the edge that are constrained by power, by security, by environmental, right? How you package that, how you deliver that, and then ultimately the software ecosystem that's needed to operate that, distributing optimized models for that edge hardware. The last one that I'm going to talk about here before we move on to the three ways that we're intercepting these strategies is around AI data, right? So if you look at how you manage data at the edge, the need to provide sovereignty and security and trust around that data is paramount. If you're generating all of this data, you certainly, at the edge, don't want to have to spend all that extra money, right, transporting that, into a centralized location, paying costly cloud costs to train in the cloud. So the trend that we see is our customers are asking for more of this data to remain on site. And Dell has a suite of data management products to help customers with this, along with storage infrastructure and things like that. Okay. So the overall point here is that as we look at data growth at the edge, you see processing now moving, and then you see also it's driven by edge AI as well. So how is Dell intercepting these trends? Three different ways. So number one is about refreshing the traditional PCs into something we call AI PCs. You probably heard about it before, so we'll talk about that. Number two is how do we simplify, bringing your training, your fine-tuning, all of your AI workloads into the data center where you can get all the benefits of, distributed computing, security, and getting control over your AI outcomes and getting all of that closer to where the data is being generated. And these are AI factories, and I'll talk about those. And then lastly, I'll talk about NativeEdge. This was something that we introduced, I think, probably almost 2 years ago. And I'll demystify that for you. But needless to say, it is a software platform that enables you to orchestrate outcomes to the edge, including AI outcomes. Okay. So first up, I'm going to talk a little bit about these AI PCs. Now, when we talk about AI PCs, at Dell, we're really talking about, it really means the integration of both the CPU, an NPU that's optimized, for your large language operations, and also GPUs, all in kind of the same silicon. So at the consumer level, if you're a knowledge worker, right, you want to accelerate your daily life and transform the way that you work. This will help you save battery life. It will help you also optimize your experience when you're disconnected from the cloud, when you're running Copilot, or what have you. Moving up the stack, there's a number of different silicon architectures that we do support in our AI PC portfolio. And one that's of interest to us in the commercial space or even at the enterprise edge space is the concept of an AI workstation where we can have discrete GPUs that are in there, higher powered GPUs, so that we can perform some of those more advanced AI workloads, fine tuning and what have you. If you look at, say, like a manufacturer, right? And the industrial PC is an important component. What we're seeing, from our customers in the use cases that they're looking to deliver is a high-performance AI PC, an AI workstation is an ideal platform for them to consolidate AI workloads in a far-edge location, including something like manufacturing. The pace and the rate of change of bringing AI to IoT sensors, right, is a much slower rate of change than it is for us to deliver AI infrastructure just above that sensor where the information can be streamed in and we can consolidate those workloads. So we're seeing a lot of demand from our customers in this space, around, how do I consolidate AI workloads even down onto the factory floor? So ruggedized PCs with discrete GPUs is meeting that need. And you're also seeing this kind of movement in the industry too. So if you've seen some of the announcements from some of the other vendors, generating, ARM-based SoC class workstations or AI supercomputers that cost $3,000 that also fit this use case, right? So lots of work going on there. All right, so along with the AI PC, we've introduced something, and this was uncovered at CES. If you were at CES, you probably heard about this. But this is the Dell Pro AI Studio. And this is all about making and delivering your AI models and the delivery of those models onto this Dell optimized infrastructure easier, right? We talked about a knowledge worker, right? But if you look at the other workers that we have today, the entire workforce is evolving. People, have to become first-class citizens with AI. So, whether you're a data scientist or you're an AI engineer, right? This infrastructure, these PCs will help you, facilitate your model development, your fine-tuning, your delivery of these models. We partnered with Hugging Face, and we've created the Dell Enterprise Hub. So if you go up to Hugging Face, you can actually gain access to models, open source models that we have tuned for our AI PCs. You can download those and deliver those through our Dell management portal. And then we have software that's running on Windows 11 PCs that also allows us to continuously update and patch this and provide lifecycle management for these models. Okay. Second part of the strategy for how we intercept these technology trends is in the data center. And this is all around something that we call the Dell AI Factory. When you think about the Dell AI Factory, it's really a framework for how we work with our customers to deliver AI outcomes, right, within the data center. Dell has probably the richest portfolio of AI-optimized enterprise infrastructure in the market. Everything from our XE9680 GPU servers to the innovations that we're doing in the data center around rack cooling and liquid cooling, right, to our rich PowerEdge servers. We have AI storage, right, in our PowerScale systems and other parts of the portfolio. Dell also has networking, and we can deliver, solutions with SpectrumX networking, things like that. So we have a very rich infrastructure ecosystem that we can help customers, provide those tailored outcomes that they need. Understanding that there's a fair amount of fragmentation in the software infrastructure. You have NVIDIA, you have AMD, you have open source. And we can work with you, right, to deliver solutions that includes these ecosystems, these solutions from these ecosystem partners through a services engagement, the top part of the stack. Okay, so when we take a look at the Dell AI Factory, it's really about how we're working with our customers to deliver those outcomes. And an example would be our Dell NVIDIA AI Factory. It's where we actually work with customers. We compose a solution that's all based on Dell PowerEdge servers along with networking, Dell storage, but embeds the NVIDIA AI Enterprise, as well as the work that we're doing with Hugging Face to make optimized models available for Dell hardware, all prepackaged, easy in the runway for them to deliver their models that they want to run within the data center. Of course, we also offer solutions from other vendors as well, including AMD and Intel with Intel's Gaudi platform. So it's just not single source. Customers don't like to be locked into a single vendor, and so we do have to offer customers choice, and so this is a way that we're doing for that in the data center. Okay, so the third leg of the stool is NativeEdge. Now, when I talk to a lot of people, I'm surprised to find out they think NativeEdge is a piece of AI hardware. It's not. NativeEdge is actually a software platform. It's a horizontal software platform that provides multiple functions. It has the ability to automate and securely onboard Dell infrastructure into remote locations and bare metal provisioning them. We are the first enterprise company that has delivered on FIDO device onboarding. If you understand what that is, it's a secure onboarding technology that came out from Intel that was open source and delivered to the FIDO Alliance. We sit on the FIDO Alliance as board members, and we are co-chair of the device onboarding group. So we've revolutionized kind of following the constraints about how do we deliver infrastructure into remote locations and can provide that supply chain security, right? And then credential things automatically, make sure that they haven't been tampered with, and then deliver the operating systems from bare metal after that, okay? So we do infrastructure management, lifecycle management, all the way from bare metal provisioning on up. We also do application orchestration. So when you talk about packaging your applications along with AI stacks, you want an easy button because that stuff is really tough to configure, right, and to optimize. We work with our partners to create what we call solution blueprints. And a solution blueprint is something that allows you to describe kind of the outcome that you want and specify the components that make it up. And usually if you take a look at any outcome, say if you take a look at something like, say, worker safety, right? That's usually a distributed application. You'll have cameras feeding out on the floor, feeding into some IoT gateway, streaming the data. You may be doing some inferencing in a data center or some part of the network, and you may have some back-end cloud service that you're talking to do some post-processing analytics or what have you, right? And it's complex to set all those pieces up. Well, NativeEdge makes it easy for you because it allows you to create these Tosca-based, YAML-based blueprints with this orchestration engine that allows you to drive towards that intent, and I'll show you an example of that later. Okay, so application orchestration, and it doesn't have to be just the solution itself, it could be the infrastructure components as well. The other thing that we can do, the third thing that we can do is understanding that most edge applications are distributed applications that have one or more of those components, edge, data center, or cloud. We have to have the ability to be able to talk to private cloud stacks or talk to managed Kubernetes services in the cloud, and to be able to provision cloud services to connect to an edge location, right, or to configure networks. And this is something that we call service orchestration, and we have the ability to orchestrate across both private clouds and public clouds. So NativeEdge is supported with multiple clouds. I talked about secure device onboarding, right, where we securely initialize our infrastructure in our supply chain, and we can guarantee the provenance of that data or that system, as it arrives, and it can be truly zero-touch provisioned. We have some edge-optimized infrastructure that's designed to operate outside of the data center in hazard environments, such as our IoT gateways, which are ruggedized for dust, moisture, vibration, things like that, as well as ruggedized PowerEdge servers. We have multi-node PowerEdge servers where we can create clusters, and we can deliver those, whether it's a Kubernetes or it's some private cloud stack. We can deliver those as well. We also have the ability to also distribute, there's kind of two areas of infrastructure inside of Dell. We have kind of our enterprise, data center business. That's the PowerEdge servers and everything else. We also have a client computing group, right? That's where you see the AI PCs and you see the Optiplex PCs and things like that. And so if you ever go out to a retailer, you've probably seen these Optiplex PCs, sitting there behind an LCD. They're everywhere. But they're great places to distribute endpoint processing for Edge. So we do have curated edge infrastructure, and we're working to modernize that edge infrastructure also with additional implicit AI capabilities like MPUs. We have the ability to also, with NativeEdge, to take any of these endpoints and cluster them together, right? There's been a fair amount of noise around the sale of VMware to Broadcom and vendor lock-in and the price pressures, right? And we do find a lot of customers asking us, what are my alternatives, right? Well, if we're looking at some of our retail customers and things like that, they want something that's cheap, right? They want something that is also reliable, but they don't have this heavy burden and they're not locked in. So leveraging open source, we have the ability to cluster these devices and to create a shared storage across them. Not only that, and then we can embed either a Kubernetes cluster or a hypervisor. But you don't have to use local attached storage either. If you require, things like a much larger infrastructure, say if you're storing data, there, for your large language model applications, you can leverage any of our products from our storage portfolio. And then lastly, we can't support the edge without having to support third-party hardware. We would prefer to bring value to you, within, through Dell hardware. But we have to also support third-party infrastructure or brownfield infrastructure that's already there. We can't go into an edge location and say, hey, I'm sorry, Mr. Customer, I know you have this non-Dell infrastructure, we can't support that. So what we've actually done is we've created a toolkit, with an agent, a generic Linux agent, whether it's an x86 agent or an ARM agent that you can install in your Linux operating system. And it can onboard into Dell's NativeEdge control plane, and now we can provide all of these things where we can provide the solution orchestration to those endpoints as well. You just don't get all of the other security value that you get from Dell hardware. Okay, and the last two things that I'm going to show here is that, to close it all off, is that we really work with application and ISVs and vendors to provide solutions. So in the manufacturing space, you'll have vendors, such like Litmus or PTC that are also modernizing their stacks to add MLOps capabilities. We do not develop the actual MLOps software or AI software. We're getting that from vendors or we're getting that from open source, and we package those as part of a solution. So usually our customers will work with Dell, right? And we will work with them to put together a solution. We will blueprint that solution and make it available in a catalog. And so now with NativeEdge, what they can do is they can take that solution and then click and mass deploy it across, hundreds or thousands of pieces of infrastructure, right? It does it all automatically. So that's a nice thing. So in a nutshell, the NativeEdge software platform enables all of these use cases, including AI use cases, to be securely delivered and provisioned automatically on Dell secure infrastructure. Just real quick, just one example of this. This is an example of, an application that we have here at the edge, doing inventory management. The idea here is that you have a YAML-based blueprint and you define your outcome for your solution. And that also includes all the software components that you may need, the configuration that you may need. And then once you have that, the NativeEdge system will go ahead and begin that deployment and drive towards that intended state. And if something goes wrong in the middle, it can actually unwind and you can start over again and fix any challenges that you have, okay? So that was just one example. I had mentioned before that, it's not just edge applications, it's also edge AI solutions and the ISV solution stacks, like those from NVIDIA or open source stacks as well. So we can do this all with secure zero touch. So as I said before when I opened up, is that, instead of taking questions, I know I've kind of given you a lot here. You probably have a lot of questions. But all the value that I see here with you guys, how do we get your solutions or your value to market through Dell? One way we can do that is by packaging your solutions and delivering those solutions with NativeEdge. So that's what I have. Thank you.